What is the difference between 4K, UHD and QHD? Do we agree on one official resolution? Nowadays it seems that full HD isn't enough anymore, and the terms 4K, QHD and UHD are thrown around interchangeably. At the same time, there is not just one 4K resolution in the catalogs. I have seen resolutions such as 2560 by 1600, 3440 by 1440, 3840 by 2160, 4096 by 2160 being advertised as 4K. But it can't all be 4K, right? Is this because 4K is not defined correctly? Did the technology grow independent from the naming conventions, or do the advertising companies just refuse to burden the customers with correct information? Also, on a side note, if 4K means 4's fold, 2 by 1920 by 2 by 1080 equals 3840 by 2160, shouldn't fold be called 2K?
Shorter answer. Do we agree on one official resolution? No. Yes. Maybe. All depending on where and what context the 4K designation is used. On a basic technical level, 4K is 4096 by 2160 and nothing else. But thanks to competing manufacturers creating competing hardware for formats and media specs that are themselves competing against each other on another level, the whole meaning of 4K has been bastardized to the point it's no longer really a true consumer specification, less of an industry standard and even more of a conceptual headache than you can imagine. So yes, it's confusing. And confusing to the point that none of this is beneficial to the consumer in any way. More details below. Longer answer. What is 4K? The 4K Wikipedia article basically states that 4K is 4096 by 2160 and nothing else. A 4K resolution, as defined by Digital Cinema Initiatives, is 4096 x 2160 pixels, 256 to 135, approximately a 1.9 to 1 aspect ratio. This standard is widely respected by the film industry along with all other TC standards. What is UHD? And then this explains what UHD is, 3840 by 2160, and why the 4K designation in this case doesn't help anything. Bold emphasis is mine. See, 4K should not be confused with ultra-high definition television, UHD, aka UHD1, which has a resolution of 3840 by 2160, 16:9, or approximately a 1.78 to 1 aspect ratio. Many manufacturers may advertise their products as UHD 4K, or simply 4K, when the term 4K is traditionally reserved for the cinematic, see resolution. This often causes great confusion among consumers. Why isn't 4K just called 2160p? You ask this. Also, on a side note, if 4K means forceful, 2 by 1920 by 2 by 1080 equals 3840 by 2160, shouldn't full be called 2K? You would think that. But then more clarification on where the mix-up might have began from Wikipedia. Again, the bold emphasis is mine. The use of width to characterize the overall resolution marks a switch from the previous generation, high-definition television, which categorized media according to the vertical dimension instead, such as 720p or 1080p. Under the previous convention, a 4K UHD would be equivalent to 2160p. So for 720p and 1080p that is defined by image height, but 4K is defined by its horizontal. So by old standards 4K should then just be called 2160p. What is QHD? The switch in dimension measuring methodology pretty much opens up the door to anyone fudging 4K to using it for defining items that are not 4K in the defined sense. For example, here is some info from the Wikipedia entry on QHD, once again bold emphasis is mine. QHD, Quad HD, also sometimes advertised as WQHD due to its widescreen shape, or 1440p, is a display resolution of 2560 by 1440 pixels in a 16:9 aspect ratio. It has 4 times as many pixels as the 720p HDTV video standard, hence the name. So that explains that. QHD is 4K in the sense that it has 4 times as many pixels as the 720p HDTV video standard. But in this case, 4K most likely just should be 4x, aka quad, 4 times normal HD size. What is this nonsense? Is it that 4K is not defined correctly? Did the technology grow independent from the naming conventions, or do the advertising companies just refuse to burden the customers with correct informations? That is an open-ended question, but I don't believe the issue is advertising refusing to burden consumers with information they can't handle. Rather, if you ask me, companies are just taking advantage of the non-enforced concept of a standard to confuse consumers into thinking they are getting what they are not getting. It's just classic sales smoke and mirrors. Not as bad as CPU megahertz/GHz speed confusion, compounded by multiple corpus, in the PC world, but maybe worse. If you are old enough, all of these mixed and deceptive uses of terminology just can make you wistful for the days of simple, 20 CRT TVs with a modest remote control. But wait. There's more. Nobody can agree on 4K DRM standards. Reading this article explains that a lot of the 4K nonsense can be traced back to DRM schemes and some companies/formats are fighting over, and how streaming 4K video versus 4K physical media might contain different, competing DRM schemes which will essential creating even more 4K media variants. In short, it's starting to look like there could be multiple DRM systems in the market for physical media and downloadable 4K content, with different major studios making their content available on some but not others. That could be more than enough to turn consumers off to 4K content in downloadable or physical form. Related addendum, DVD plus R, plus, versus DVD-R, minus, nonsense. And in aside, but if you remember when DVD-Rs first came out, they were just basically DVD-Rs. But then DVD plus Rs came around, as a competing recordable DVD format. The plus resulted in some creative marketing nonsense, such as where DVD plus R media was considered superior to DVD-R because one was a DVD plus R type of media and the other, by implication, was DVD minus R, and who wants to have the minus media when plus media is out there? You want the best, right? So be positive. Get the plus. This kind of format branding manipulation nonsense never ends. P.S. And when the dust settled from the DVD-R/DVD plus R nonsense, we ended up with the DIV plus or Minister, plus/minus, designation for DVD readers/writers so that they could read and write to DVD-R media as well as DVD plus R media. The fun never stops.
Giacomo 1968's answer is correct, but stated briefly from common usage, among people not lying. 4K is ambiguous and may refer to 3840 by 2160 or 4096 by 2160, or potentially others. UHD, in this context, refers to 3840 by 2160 and nothing else. This resolution may be called 4K. QHD refers to 2560 by 1440. Wider versions, such as 3440 by 1440, may be called ultra-wide UHD. Neither UHD nor 4K are appropriate names for these resolutions. 2560 by 1600 is called WXGA. Neither UHD nor 4K are appropriate names for this resolution. There is some, but not very much ambiguity in the terms. But as you have found, people lie or make mistakes.